Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the latest developments in the story of on the attack of Paul Pelosi, the husband of Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker. And I want to talk about the issue of political violence, how we really need to take serious the seriousness of this whole situation. So we'll have a conversation. I want to have that one-on-one with you. Also, can we talk about the fact that you had you have the two accused men who was accused, allegedly responsible for the assassination of Malcolm X. Those two brothers have been exonerated, and they have now decided that they will each split a $26 million lawsuit that they had won from the state of New York. So we'll talk about that as well. Later on in the hour, can we talk about Elon Musk and how there are a number of folks who are deciding to leave Twitter after he has decided to take over the social media platform, and those folks being Black Twitter users, and how there has been an increase of hate speech on a platform that Mr. Musk said would be free and open for free speech and civilized conversation. We'll share with you a little bit of that and a whole lot more. So stay with us. All of that is happening on today's edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Stay with us. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for joining us in the conversation today. Wanted to have a first conversation with all of you, my online culture crew, and big shout out to my online culture crew. Yes, 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 and y'all know how I'm feeling about you, and I appreciate y'all so much for joining us today for these discussions. But first and foremost, big shout out to all of those who've submitted some information for us about our segment. I'm going to talk a little bit more later on about our segment, but thank you for those submissions that we just received over the weekend. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's jump right into these conversations, folks, because I'm watching how this story is continuing to develop around the attack on Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, that happened just a few days ago in San Francisco. And when we look at the attack, folks, here, take a look at this. His attack highlights rising fears of political violence. And this is what I want to key in on. This is what I want to key in on. Nancy Pelosi has been the target of GOP threats for at least 20 years. She is probably the most powerful woman in the Democratic Party. She's been in a stalwart of democracy, of democratic politics for years. And so she has often been the brunt of threats from GOP, but nothing quite like this. Now, we saw on January the 6th when those pro-Trump rally participants, stormed the Capitol, calling for Nancy Pelosi, along with other lawmakers, but they were calling for Nancy Pelosi and essentially calling for her death. And we also know that there have been a number of protesters who entered her office on that day to try to just damage the office as much as he can. And then on the flip side, while all that was happening, we have now seen the footage of Nancy Pelosi being in that undisclosed location while all this is going on with Chuck Schumer and other lawmakers, and how she was moving around, trying to get things done, trying to make sure that other people in Congress, in both the Senate and the House, were staying safe as a result of that situation. So she's always kind of had this threat looming over her. But again, nothing quite like this. This strikes home, and I'm not using that as a pun, but I'm just saying it is so close because it's in your residence. And we talked about a little bit of this last week, how this is so scary. Can you imagine someone coming into your home doing damage like this? Now there's more details about what happened when 42-year-old David Pape decided to go into the home of Paul and Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco And actually, Mr. Pelosi was actually injured. He suffered a skull fracture. He had to get surgery done in San Francisco over the weekend. But can you imagine you, as the police officer, being called to the home of the Pelosi residence, seeing this situation play out? You get there, and before the suspect decides to give himself up and surrender, he attacks Paul Pelosi with a hammer right there in front of the police. So and of course he almost beats him to death. Prior to that moment of the attack, he was calling for Nancy and saying, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" And they found that David Pape is a conspiracy theorist. He's a far right winger. He's a guy who has been drinking the Kool-Aid, as they say, about Nancy Pelosi, about the state of our economy, the state of our politics, of our political space, and so much more. So this is so concerning on so many levels. But I want to share with you what the reports have said about this situation, because this is just one, and this is a very horrific attack, and it's, again, you know, it's something that Mr. Pelosi did not, was fatally wounded in this attack, but he's 82 years old. He gets hit in the head with a hammer. So I know there's great concern about him being able to really fully recover from this attack. But this is just one of a number of attacks on this situation. Let me just share with you what we learned about this ongoing rising political violence that we're seeing in this country. And here it is. Take a look at this, folks. In a review by the New York Times earlier this year of more than 75 indictments of people charged with threatening lawmakers since 2016, more than a third of the cases involve Republican or pro-Trump individuals threatening Democrats or Republicans they found insufficiently loyal to the former president. Nearly a quarter of the cases were Democrats threatening Republicans, many of them threats driven by anger over lawmaker support for Mr. Trump and his policies, including Republican attempts to appeal the Affordable Care Act and one of his Supreme Court nominees, Brett Kavanaugh. Wow. So we're seeing this, folks. We are really seeing a situation here where there are these attacks. All right, I'm going to go to you, my online culture crew, to get your thoughts on this in a moment. But I wanted to share this with you, and then we'll hear from you. Take a look at this quote. This is from an associate professor at Chapman University who has studied extremist groups and violence for more than 20 years. His name is Peter Simi. And Peter Simi said, quote, when we see things like what we saw happen last night, and this was last week he spoke on this, at the speaker's home, when we see things like plots to kidnap governors, this is what's related to the governor of Michigan, when we see overt acts ramping up, we saw that on January 6th, we see, frankly, take a look at what he said, folks. He said, we see, frankly, a whole host of indicators suggesting that we're really at a crisis point. This is why I wanted to pull this quote, because I wanted us to really think about this. We are at a crisis point in our politics right now, that folks are seeking out lawmakers simply because they disagree, simply because, and this is not a simple thing. I'm not going to say simply. I also say because they disagree, because they don't like the direction that these lawmakers are taking on various issues. They are seeking out lawmakers, folks, and they're looking to hurt them or outright kill them. Very, very scary. And when we think about other countries, when we think about what's going on in the Middle East and how they handle things, when we think about the continent of Africa, when we think about other countries where governments constantly go through these constant transitions, right? They use the term stabilizing the government. We want to stabilize the country. Often when America goes into to other foreign lands, they use that terminology. This is a stabilization effort because things are so uncertain, because things are standing on shaky ground. This is the case in America. So we're not talking about overseas anymore. We're talking about America. We're talking about the land of the free, the home of the brave. We're talking about the quote unquote, the most exceptional country in the world. And now we're seeing a little bit more and more each year a rise of political violence. The type of violence that you would see, that we would talk about if this was Egypt or the Middle East, the type of violence that we would see in other parts of the world, it's happening here at home. What's your take on this? You should join me in a conversation. Post your comments on the platforms that we're streaming on, YouTube, Facebook. I would love to hear what you have to say and get your thoughts on this. And let me just make sure that the suspect in this attack, he was charged with, take a look, folks, assault and attempted kidnapping. Federal prosecutors have actually filed charges on Monday against this man that the police said broke into the House Speaker's home. And these charges were just announced within the last hour. So they are proceeding. They are moving forward with charging David Pape with this, with very, very serious crimes, especially as he committed crimes against a major lawmaker. Now, it was also reported, as we get your thoughts on this, folks, this was reported by The Guardian in July of 2022, where members of the House of Representatives will now receive an upgrade of $10,000 to upgrade their security at their homes. This is what was discussed back in the summer in the face of rising threats against lawmakers. So they put more money into the security efforts to beef up security. But will it matter? People are very creative. They know how to get information off of the online. They know where people live. All of those things. All right, let's go to the phone. Let's go to the phone lines, but let's go to the chat line. Radio, folks, radio world. Let's go to the chat lines and hear what folks got to say. Kicking it off with my guy, you don't like my music. You say political violence is called terrorism. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a form of terrorism. This is a form of terrorism, folks. And if our political officials, and I will say this, if our political officials aren't safe to do their job, right? And people have the quote unquote the gall, they have the tenacity, they have just the confidence to pull off something like this, right? Without fear of consequences. That's the thing. That if you do this, are you going to feel the full brunt and weight of the United States government? David Pape is going to feel the full brunt of and weight of this government as a result of this. But you got to also think about, too, there are a number of Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and other Republicans who are creating the environment for this. And see, here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about, and y'all tell me what you think. I don't think a lot of people understand that once you let this violence out of the box, it does not go where you think it will go. It does not just stop with one person or one group of people. It spreads. It spreads. You know, it spreads all over. So you might think, oh, I'm immune to it. They won't hurt me. But we don't know. So even for Black folks, we can't say, well, that's a Democrat thing. That's a white thing. This is a thing for everybody to be concerned about, because someone is not happy, will not be happy with a stance that any political leader takes. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, there are Republicans that piss off other Republicans, as there are Democrats that piss off other Democrats. And so when we open a door when we start to add fuel to the fire and gaslight the situation and say, oh man, the Republicans are saying stuff now and all of that stuff, you best to be careful, because that might come right to your doorstep. You might be opening the door for you to be attacked. So you don't like my music, you right on time with that. Thank you, bro. Mike V, my guy, you said the right winger who threatened Congressman Omar was also recently sentenced as well. Good point. Mike, thank you for bringing us that into the discussion. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, a black woman. And I said this last week. So we can say, oh, that's Pelosi and boom, boom, boom. But what if somebody tries to attack the Obamas? Right? What if that happens? What if somebody tries to attack James Clyburn down in South Carolina? Right? What if somebody attacks any one of the black lawmakers? Hell, what if somebody tries to attack Sister Ketanji Brown Jackson? See what I'm saying? See, we can't act as if it can't happen. Now we got to have conversations about this. And as this midterm's getting closer and closer, we're going to have to look at this. Real talk. Mike, thank you for bringing that to the discussion, bro. Real Brooklyn, my guy, you said we are at a crisis point. Absolutely. In the human race. We are heading in territories we have not seen since the Dark Ages. This is some Game of Thrones. And look, I watch Game of Thrones. My wife is a huge Game of Thrones fan. You know what I mean? And this is if you watch the show, it's all about power, right? It's all about what's happening in the seven kingdoms and who's got the power here and who, but they're always plotting. They're always trying to figure out how to get their hands into power. And guess what? That's what we have seen in other countries when it comes to political violence, right? That one group comes up, they rise up for the moment, and then another group is right there behind them trying to figure out how to get them out of that seat of power. See, in America, we have certain laws in place. We have certain processes in place. We have the checks and balance systems of the House and the Senate, and you got Congress, you got the executive branch, you got the judicial branch. But what if those branches of government start to not do what they're supposed to do, or they only do what they are politically beholden to? What happens then? Then we start to see that you can be violent, a perpetrator of violence. It might not be prosecuted in one case, but then another perpetrator of violence can be prosecuted to the full extent in another case because of their political affiliations. This is the concern. And then once you start to do that, now you do create like a Game of Thrones situation, because now it's like one group versus the other. Well, how many groups in this country, and Real Brooklyn, talk to me on this, bro, and share your thoughts. How many groups in this country are at odds with one another, or could potentially be at odds with one another? Because we got the haves and the have-nots. We got the liberals versus the progressives. We got the Democrats versus the Republicans, right? We got black against white. We got white against this group, right? We got people that live in one area code versus another people that live in another area code. We got states versus state heads. So we got state lawmakers here, state lawmakers there. We got people of one skin color versus you have white Latinos and Afro Latinos. You think about all the differences that can be exploited as a result of us being different, having different ideologies, a different view of ourselves, a different view of the world. You think about all these groups that could be exploited and how they can be gaslit to create a situation where they're going against each other. I want you to think about that. I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, I'm going to take more of your comments. Let's continue to have this conversation. I'm loving the insight that y'all are bringing. So let's continue to have this discussion. Stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
This is our time, our moment to move forward, Beyond the gun violence, the hospital closures, the unaffordable housing, Brian Kemp's Georgia for the wealthiest few. Stacey Abrams is looking out for every Georgian. She'll invest our $6 billion surplus in the fundamentals, education, healthcare, housing, and a good living, putting more money in your pocket to build one Georgia where everyone has the freedom to thrive.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is RolandSMartin.com.
We've got to stand up. Republicans are banning abortion rights, tearing down democracy, blocking progress. But when Democrats stand together, we win. Because we voted, Democrats stood up for Black lives, voting to ban police chokeholds, stood up for Black women, putting one on the Supreme Court, stood up for our families, lowering cost of health care and prescriptions and capping insulin, and stood up for millions by slashing student debt. This November, let's stand up together and keep making progress.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about this case of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her husband, Paul Pelosi, who has been violently attacked in his home just a few days ago as a result of a pro-right-winger, 42-year-old David Papp, who wanted to do real harm and possibly even kill the House Speaker when he entered their home on a on an early morning this weekend. And it has caused a lot of conversation about where we are in the state of our political affairs in this country. And more importantly, this idea that there is a real concern about the growing epidemic of political violence that we may be seeing in America, a concern that was so far off, I think, from the American psyche and the consciousness that we always thought that we would be protected by some level of civility. We would be protected by the laws. That we would be protected as a result of everything that we have in place. And now we're seeing, and we are at a place, folks, where political officials, political leaders are being are being attacked in their home. So let me go back to you, my online culture crew, and get your take on where we are with this situation, because we need to talk about it. We can't brush over this. And I think for Black folks in this country, we cannot get so comfortable in thinking that it would never happen to us. We just can't get comfortable, folks. again, I'm going back to something in Truth is Power. I saw what you posted as well in the chat, brother. You said, what if it was Michelle or Barack or Maxine Waters? That's a great one. You know, Auntie Maxine in her 80s, still doing the work. But is she a vulnerable target? And I'm trust and believe, folks. I'm not wishing no ill will on anyone. I'm just bringing this up because we should be concerned about it. We should be concerned about it. Corinna, you said something. You said it's unfortunate this has happened, but if January 6th didn't put any urgency under the Democrats to legislate accordingly, then what will, aside from the pressure we the people force upon them? Then what will, aside from the pressure we the people force upon them? Corinna, you know, and I know that you cannot, what we saw on January the 6th is something that I have never seen in my life. I don't think any one of us have ever seen in our lifetime. That situation has to be remedied. There has to be something. And I don't know what it is just yet, but there has to be something that needs to be done to cut the head off of that situation. But you're absolutely right. See, and here's the take, and this is why I say, you know, next week we got our a midterm election. You know, in 2024 we go back to the polls for the president. This is going to be a very challenging time for America over these next 2 years. We already talked about what happened with the polls and how polls are being put on high alert because this election here is so pivotal and potentially volatile for so many groups of people, for so many states, right? But when we see this warning not fully being taken seriously, we need to be concerned about that. We even if you don't ride with the Republicans, right? You say, all right, well, I don't ride with the Republicans, nor do I ride with the Democrats. You can't look at a situation like these attacks on Governor Whitmer, Nancy Pelosi's husband, on other people, January 6th, and you can't act like, oh man, that don't bother me. There's no way. How could any one of us say that should not be a concern? This is a great concern because America has always prided itself on its political standing. It's, you know, scholars were called democracy the American experiment, right? Because we're still testing it out. It's still pretty relatively new compared to other forms of government and how America does governance, right? This idea for the people, by the people, the people's will, the people's representative, all of these ideas are genuinely new, right? Because most of them dealt with aristocracy. Most of them dealt with some level of dictatorship and all of those things. But this is new. So it's been considered an experiment. So some things work and some things don't work. And we have always been told by President Biden and other presidents that it is the belief in the system, the hope of the people that will determine the success of the system, right? It's what the people put in. Like what I've heard from President Biden, it's like basically, if the democracy will only work if the people get involved. It'll only work if we only will get out of it what we put into it. That's the place that we are with our governance. That if we don't put nothing into it, we're going to get nothing out of it. But then at the same time, we have been lulled to sleep because we have been made to think that the government is going to take care of itself, not really understanding that you can have institutions, you can have policies, but you need the will of the people in order for this whole situation to work, in order for there to be a driver for the institutions, for the policies, for government to work. There needs to be an educated consensus, educated citizenry at the root of everything. There needs to be an active citizenry at the root of everything. So you need the people. But if the people are told that their government officials are the ones to think of all of the ideas, all of the solutions, figure it all out, so we only have a few hundred people in government to dictate the future of millions of us in the United States, do you think that they can think about every little thing that happens in our lives that's happening as a result of all of these things? Do you think that just a few hundred people can truly do it without us being involved? I mean, just think on this with me. Do you really think that that can happen? Because I don't see that happening. I know that that's what we've been told. I know that's what we've been told to believe, but I'm saying to you today, I don't see that happen without us being fully involved. All right, let's go back. Let's go back. Let me hear from Chris V. Chris, you said, remember back in 2014 when that guy jumped the White House fence and made it all the way to the front door of the White House before getting apprehended? Luckily, the Obamas weren't there. Yes, and Chris, remember how many times, bro, and I'm glad you brought that up. How many times did the Obamas were kind of in near misses of coming in face to face with danger, right? As a result of their situation. How many times do you think that happened? That's probably happened way more. And I mean, I just read a few incidents where that happened, but they were, I mean, I'm sure they were hundreds of times. Let's not even talk about the fact that when President Obama first got into office in 2018, the rise of guns just exploded as a result of that, because there were all of these folks that foresaw that that his election was going to bring about the end of America. So we saw people getting in bunkers. We saw people getting guns. We saw people joining militias to protect themselves and their families and their assets and their property. And I mean, we see all of this, and this is still happening, folks. Don't think that this is not happening. This is still happening. This is not being reported on the mainstream as it once was, but it's still happening, even with the rise of Trump. These things are still happening. And I'm saying this just not to create a dark world, but to bring us into the light of understanding, so that way we don't think that we're not in the dark about things. All right, let's go back to let me hear from Robin. Robin, you said, if the House Speaker's husband can be attacked, what will prevent neighbors from attacking neighbors due to a difference in political views? This needs to be taken seriously. Facts. Facts, Robin. Robin, I'm right there with you, sis. I am right there with you. So this situation could potentially open a door for neighbor against neighbor, right? I mean, you know who you're in your neighborhood. Imagine if you do live in a neighborhood. I used to live in a neighborhood where the mayor of Baltimore lived, right in the same neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? But I always crossed my mind, like anybody could. Now, of course, you got police and all of those things. You know, he got police presence and near his home and all of that stuff, but it doesn't mean that somebody wouldn't try. That even those of us who live next to political leadership, we might be an innocent bystander. We might get caught up in the fire. We might, you know what I mean? And so we got to really think about that. Good point. Real Brooklyn, you said, Faraji, I always felt that our total reliance on government is the root of most of our problems. We have given government too much power because of our selfish needs. They are in the driver's seat. Well, that's the part about it, Real Brooklyn. That's the part I think is supposed to be the one of the shiny elements of our democracy, right? That out of a few, out of many, come a few can determine and dictate our, what we need to fulfill our interests. And you're right. You're right. I think you said selfish. I want to throw in another word. I think we've gotten lazy. I think we've just gotten lazy and believing that the government is going to continue to, fulfill every single need. And so we don't even really have the desire. I mean, a lot of us, when we talk about government, yes, we talk about government, but we kind of talk about it like outside of its impact on our personal lives, right? When we talk about laws and policy, we're like, man, that's crazy. But we go back to doing our thing, not understanding the implications and ramifications of certain policy until we get into a situation and then it's brought to our attention, whether you buying a house or buying a car or you trying to open up a business or something, or you know what I mean? You trying to file your taxes and then you're like, oh, there's a new tax law, or oh, I didn't know about this, or I didn't know about that. We don't know until it gets there. And I think there's a design effort. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, folks. But I think that to some degree, the powers that be may want us to keep us clouded about what's really going on, because if we wake up to what's going on in our government, if we wake up to the serious issues that our government faces and our government don't tell us the truth about those serious issues, and we're left in the blind, and then the government do us wrong by denying us the truth of the moment. So they're in the blind. So it's the blind leading the blind. And guess what happens? We both fall in the ditch. The government's saying, oh, this is the good thing that we deny the American people the truth about what's going on in this issue and that issue. We got to keep them playing. We got to keep them going to the beach during the summer, keep them going on cookouts. But over here, just this thing is falling apart. Over there, yeah, we're losing the war in this part of the earth. Over here, yeah, the economy. But let's keep them preoccupied. Then celebrities are thrown into our face. Then other stuff that keeps us preoccupied. We talking on and I'm not saying that we got to talk hard about the issues every single day, because I get it. Trust and believe. I totally understand. But we've gotten to a place here in our culture where we don't even want to have, it's like we have this, don't talk to me. It's like when I see some people, right? And I know some people might feel this way, but I don't agree with it. Some people say, well, I don't watch the news at all. I haven't watched the news, taken in the news, watched the local news, don't watch CNN, don't watch nothing like, I don't watch the news because it's too violent. Okay, I understand that element, but what about just being updated about what's going on in the world? Do you not read the newspaper? Okay, you don't have to watch the news. Do you read any newspapers? You read New York Times, LA Times, USA Today, Baltimore Sun. Do you read the Final Call? Do you read what are you, where are you getting your information? How do you know what's going on in the world around you? How do you know what the urgencies are? How do you keep informed? Or do you just want to live in a bubble? We just want to live in a silo, in a tunnel. I don't want none of that. No. If it ain't good news, I don't want it. Well, I wish life was that easy. You know what I'm saying? Life comes with bad news. Life comes with bumps. Life comes with ups and downs. So I get it. But there got to be a balance. You don't have to be a total consumer of the bad, but you at least need to know that bad exists. And if you're in the denial of that bad exists, how can we operate in this world using the best intelligence? How do you teach your children? How do you go through your day if you don't recognize that bad and evil exist in the world? Bigger conversation. Bigger conversation. Corinna, you said add willfully ignorant to lazy. All right, we adding it on. I love it. I love it. So we selfish, we getting lazy, and now we're willfully ignorant. That's why we rely on our government so much. Let me see here. My guy, Charles Magruder, you said, yes, voting is the best tool to save this democratic experiment. It's one of the tools. It's one of the tools. The real best tool for saving democracy is having an educated citizenry. If you don't know how your government works, what are you voting for? If you don't know the implication of decisions, what are you voting for? If you don't know the roles that certain positions play in government, what are you voting for? If you don't understand why certain issues are high priority and why certain issues are low priority, then what are you voting for? See, none of the vote is an outgrowth of education. You vote because you're becoming more of an active, engaged citizen. But if you don't have no reference, if you don't have no base knowledge, if you don't know anything or have an interest of knowing anything about your government, then how can you go to the polls and vote? That's why in every voter campaign, there's that element. The first element is voter education. Well, why do we need voter education? Not just to be told that, oh, Black people have died for your vote, or that people have sacrificed for us to vote, and that's true. But voter education also comes down to who are your representatives? Who are the people that's standing in front of you who are asking for your vote? Why are they saying that this issue is in this issue and this issue is top priority? What does that have? What impact will that have on your personal life, on your money, on your school choices, on your health care? See, if you don't have that level of education, then what are you voting for? If you're just voting just because you think the person is cool, that's all well and good. There's a little bit of cool factor in voting today, but that can't be the basis. Otherwise, you might be voting for somebody that's cool, but against your own interests. You know, people do have an ability today, especially in our culture, to redefine themselves. I never forget. One of the people who served as the communications persons, and I think it was for President Bush, or President Trump, rather. He worked for Trump, and I think his name's Ari Fleischer, but he worked for Trump, and he only worked for him for a couple of years. He decided to leave the role, and then he redefined himself. I think he started writing books. I think he started working in the private sector and all of that stuff. And now he wants to be like this guy. And it's like, if you didn't know any better, you would think that a person like him, who is able to redefine himself, is cool because you don't know his history. You don't know his background. That's for anybody that was a part of an administration that wasn't good for the American people, right? They come out, they live for Kellyanne Conway. They can leave and they can redefine themselves, put out a book. You see them as a talking head. They're talking about democracy and all of those things. But what about their history? But if you don't know their history and you vote for a person who is able to redefine themselves when they come before you in public spaces, then you would think you're making a good vote. Oh, come on, no. That's not enough. You have to know as much as you can about who you're voting for, and more importantly, the issues that you're standing for. The last thing about the voting piece, to your point, brother Charles, is you have to have a stance on the issues. Sure, the governor might say it, and the governor of your state might say it, the congressperson might say it, but if you don't know the issues yourself, then what are you voting for? See, that's the voter education. That's the voter education. And so now, as we see this rise of political violence in this country, And as we see scary moments like what happened with the Pelosi attack, we have to be very clear about where we stand, who we're standing with. We got to be clear about what's going on in the country around us. And as we go to the polls, God willing, y'all are going to the polls either this week, if you're doing early voting, doing the next week. But who and what are you voting for? Where do you stand? As adults, those are the big issues that we have to often ask ourselves. This is not the time for us to be on the fence unless we just don't know much about a situation, about an issue. But if you have a view, if you have a stance, and you believe in what you say, and you believe in that stance, then guess what? Then you should make your voice known. It's that simple. And we need to be engaged, because this American experiment called democracy will not sustain itself. If you think that America is a place that is worthy to be saved, if you think there are some redeeming value in what we are all a part of, if you think that our children can possibly benefit from all that we are a part of, then I would say, then you should go to vote. You should stand up against certain things. And that we should take this rise of political violence very seriously, because it not only threatens the life of the persons involved, or does it even threaten this comfortable space that we find ourselves in our relationship to our government, but it threatens the sense of sanity and safety that we think we have in this country. And if once that is disrupted, folks, we're about to walk around looking like a bunch of paranoid people, where we can't trust our neighbor, we can't talk to the businessman, we can't talk to the person in the school. We're going to start living in silos. And I don't know about you, but I'm not comfortable with living in fear. We got to take a stand. We have to take a stand. So I appreciate all of you for checking in, Karen. You said 100 for Raji. We the people must participate in our local government to elevate change at the state and federal levels beyond voting. Our elected officials need help. Absolutely, Karen. Thank you. Shalinda, you said, well, maybe they should just bring back Schoolhouse Rock. Facts. Facts. Right. R.A. Fleischer. Thank you, Joel. My producer checked me. He worked for George W. Bush, not for Trump. Yep. Thank you, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. So these are the things that we need to consider. And I just wanted to throw it out there so that way we can become engaged and educated citizens and not just walking around here hoping, wishing upon a star, thinking some mystery God is going to save us. If anybody's going to save this American experiment, well, it's going to be Americans. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have a different conversation here. Let's talk about Elon Musk and what his leadership is bringing out of folks, as there are a number of concerns that Black Twitter users have about him being at the helm. And I'm also going to share with you some data about how the fact that the new social media under his leadership has actually gone up in hate speech. We'll also be checking in with a sister to talk about these changing dynamics of social media and our usage. So stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We've got to stand up. Republicans are banning abortion rights, tearing down democracy, blocking progress. But when Democrats stand together, we win. Because we voted, Democrats stood up for Black lives, voting to ban police chokeholds, stood up for Black women, putting one on the Supreme Court, stood up for our families, lowering cost of health care and prescriptions and capping insulin, and stood up for millions by slashing student debt. This November, let's stand up together and keep making progress.
This is our time, our moment to move forward, beyond the gun violence, the hospital closures, the unaffordable housing. Brian Kemp's Georgia for the wealthiest few. Stacey Abrams is looking out for every Georgian. She'll invest our $6 billion surplus in the fundamentals, education, healthcare, housing, and a good living, putting more money in your pocket to build one Georgia where everyone has the freedom to thrive.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, man. I hope that first segment around political violence got you thinking and got you talking. So many people are checking in on our online culture crew right there in the chats on YouTube and Facebook. Truly, truly grateful that the conversation is had. But this is a very, very important topic for me. So, I will say this very quickly before we go to our next segment. For the rest of this week, we're going to dedicate time to talk about politics, of course, about the upcoming midterm elections. And tomorrow, folks, we're literally 1 week away, 7 days away from this pivotal election. So all this week, we're going to do our part. I got some speeches. We're going to try to get some excerpts from the great Reverend William Barber and his speech and trying to fire up the low income and those who often are not heard to go to the polls. I mean, there are just so many different things. So, if you're like, oh, we got to talk about this. Yeah, we're going to talk about this. Yeah, I'm going to dedicate some good amount of time to this because I want us to be as informed, engaged, and as active as possible to go to these polls, man. States like Georgia, we've been talking about, in states like California, Florida, we got a lot of things happening down in Florida. I'm looking at Detroit, so I'm looking at what's happening there. I'm keeping my eyes on that one. California, where I am, yep, I'm keeping my eyes on here. Texas, big one, another big one. There's a lot has happened there. Of course, hometown, Baltimore, Maryland, they're looking to make some history with possibly electing the first Black governor for the state of Maryland and Westmore. I'm looking at a lot of states, looking at a lot of places. So we got to do our due diligence to make sure that we keep you posted on those things. Also, make sure y'all follow me on all of my social media platforms at Faraji, The Real Faraji on Instagram and Faraji on Twitter. As I love to connect with you, let's continue to build our community. But I'm going to be putting out more information and just keeping the conversations going. So if you haven't connected with me on social media, I would love to connect with you. I'm looking to re-energize my social media. So your energy will help to build my energy. My energy will build yours. So let's just build energy together. All right, folks. In this conversation, I wanted to talk about what we're seeing with Elon Musk taking the reins of leadership at Twitter. Of course, we talked a little bit about this last week. The $44 billion acquisition of Twitter, one of the world's richest men has decided to take on this public platform as a way to shift the conversation. But there are some concerns, especially from Black Twitter users, that this will not be the space that is going to be as welcoming, warm, and accommodating as Mr. Musk has put out there. Take a look at this, folks. Here's the latest situation around Twitter. And this is what I think is interesting. And I'm asking a question, with hate speech increasing on Twitter, will Black people leave? Do you know that there has been, since Elon Musk has officially announced that he is going to be taking over Twitter, do you know that there has been a rise in hate speech in the very platform, in the very space that he said he wants to have? He's what he calls a free speech absolutist. Oh my gosh. Hate speech is rising on Twitter as a result of his takeover. Wow. Let me just share with you very quickly what this is, and then we're going to bring my sister Shireen Mitchell in, who is digital sister, who's going to break it all down to us so we can understand, like we 5-year-olds around this issue. But according to the reports, and this comes out of Forbes magazine, but they quoted the Network Contagion Research Institute. They analyzed social media content. Its researchers found a 500% increase, folks, in the use of the N-word on Twitter within 12 hours of Musk taking over. 500%. There have also been big spikes in the use of anti-Semitic, homophobic, transphobic, and other racist terms besides the N-word on the platform. Now take a listen to this. This is what he said. This is what Elon Musk said. He said, the reason I acquired Twitter is because it is important to the future of civilization to have a common digital town square. The importance of the future of civilization. Damn. You must think Elon Musk is an Avenger or something. All right. So he said, that said, Twitter obviously cannot become a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said with no consequences. In addition to adhering to the laws of the land, our platform must be warm and welcoming to all. Really, Mr. Musk? Really, sir? Really? All right, let me bring in digital sister, our sisters, who is an expert on understanding the dynamics of social media, Shireen Mitchell. Shireen, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I love.
Make sure. Is my volume? Is that me or you?
Oh, is my volume
bad? My volume? Because I don't hear you all the way. I hear you a little bit, but I don't hear you all the way, Shireen. There we go. Let's make sure we get that tight, because I want people to hear you loud and clear.
Can I get loud?
All right. Can we go ahead? I think we should be good.
Can you hear me?
All right. Let's check her audio is good. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Go ahead, Shireen.
Yeah. Is it me or is it on your end? I just want to make sure.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So what do you?
We're good. We're good on everyone hearing me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. So talk to us a little bit, Shireen, about this situation. What do you make of this 500% increase of the N-word within 12 hours?
Within 12
More
hours.
homophobic, transphobic, racist comments. Within 12 hours, Shireen?
12 hours. Like, he just took over and all of a sudden everyone was like, oh, I get to say whatever I want. And that has always been one of the biggest problems with our community. It's that these platforms have always, at some point, allowed the racist conversations around Black people and their identity. It was an accepted part of the platforms. The one thing that I want to make sure that is key here is that him taking over is not magical. It is the fact that he did it. And he is talking about being an absolutist when I will promise you, free speech has never been granted to us the same way it's been granted to other people. And we're seeing examples of that. And that's why the 12 hours, like it took 12 hours. I saw it myself. I was watching other data for us to pay attention to. But that ultimately, at the end of the day, he basically is like, I am going to let people say whatever they want. And he's also participating in many ways with the mis and disinformation. If there wasn't that case, I would say something completely different at this moment. But what I know is that the evidence is proof. He was participating in mis and disinformation. He was also participating in targeting marginalized people. When many people called up his apartheid history, those people were shut down for criticizing him about that history, how his money came about. There are many instances that like people scream free speech, but they don't mean it for everyone. They mean it for some of us. And what we just witnessed is in his immediate takeover was people going, "Oh no, this is for just some. It's not for all of us." No matter what statement he gives at this point, no matter what aspect happens that moves forward, we will have a conversation about like what free speech means. But I literally seen multiple people, even when LeBron James made a comment saying that hate speech is free speech. Hate speech is not covered by the First Amendment at all under any circumstances in any form. The other really, really important part is that he keeps making it look like the free speech is just about us disagreeing with each other. We can disagree with each other.
And that's one of the big concerns that, you know, when we talk about free speech, we often talk about it like in this silo, right? You know, that only benefits a few people.
It only benefits a few people.
And here's my understanding, and maybe if I'm wrong on this, Shireen, but he says that Twitter is for the future of civilization. I'm thinking to myself, I get it. It's an influential platform. I use it. I like it. You know what I'm saying? In spite of all of the craziness, you know, I think there's some value in the platform. But is it that big? I mean, does it fit that big of a place in the big scheme of things? Like, are people, quote unquote, feel like if Twitter was not in existence anymore, that we would lose something in the process?
No, I mean, Twitter could go away tomorrow. It's very much like, but also any of these platforms can go away tomorrow. I think that there are multiple instances where it's quite clear that there is this assumption that technology and the social media is the thing that's going to save us. And that's where Elon Musk comes from. This whole concept that technology is everything, and that's the future of our lives. And I'm not saying that technology is not connected, but the concept that this is that somehow technology is going to move forward without humans. Are we saying that humans are not going to be moving along with the technology and all the spaces in between about that? Because part of the reason that we're having this hard time is because the bad acting humans are walking with us through this. And we're not checking all of those people. We're picking and choosing who we're checking in terms of who is saying harmful rhetoric, who are promoting violence, who's dismissing violence, which he did. He promoted a link to a site that basically made it seem like Mr. Pelosi's violence against him was somehow made up. Those are the things that it's the human part of it. The government part of it is the part I think that where people are confused about. You have the right to speak against your government in America. It says Congress shall make no law. You and me disagreeing is very different. And unless the government gets involved, unless there's some legal action, they are completely separate things. I can disagree with you, but also if you do something that incites violence against me, that's not protected by free speech.
So I think that you're absolutely right, and I think it's very important for us to be very clear, like what the First Amendment actually covers. And one of our culture crew members, Jawan Yvette, Jawan, you said some people forget that you're free to say whatever you want, but the First Amendment does not protect you from the consequences of your words.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. It does not protect you from that. And we're watching it, right? You know, with some of the things that's happening with I'm going to call him, I have a name for him, but I'll give him his respectful name. Kanye is you make these statements and people get to react. You make these statements and businesses get to react. People get to react. You can say whatever you want. You really can. No one's telling you you can't. But if we're now having a debate about what hate speech is versus free speech, then we're fundamentally failing at the understanding of what the first it's sort of what I say is it's a bastardization of the First Amendment. You can't scream fire in a movie theater because it would cause harm. You can't scream a death threat. Yet on some of these platforms that has been accepted as normal. There are so many things that we have allowed to move the needle as if they are completely protected by the First Amendment, and they aren't. We have proven that we failed to understand what the First Amendment actually meant in the first place.
Absolutely. Look, I want to take a quick pause. When we come back, I want to get some comments because our online culture crew, Shireen, is just biting to say something. So we want to get some comments in from them. So many people are checking in. Folks, join the discussion. Post your comments. If you're watching this show on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, we would love to hear what you got to say. Post your comments and let's continue the conversation with Shireen Mitchell as we talk about Elon Musk and the implications of his takeover over the major social media platform, Twitter. Stay with us. That conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
This is our time, our moment to move forward, beyond the gun violence, the hospital closures, the unaffordable housing. Brian Kemp's Georgia for the wealthiest few. Stacey Abrams is looking out for every Georgian. She'll invest our $6 billion surplus in the fundamentals, education, healthcare, housing, and a good living, putting more money in your pocket to build one Georgia where everyone has the freedom to thrive.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to the show, The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking to Shireen Mitchell, who is a digital expert, to talk to us a little bit about the implications and the impact of Elon Musk, one of the world's foremost billionaires or richest men, as he takes on the reins of leadership and power over the social media network Twitter. And what does that mean for Black Twitter users? Let's bring Shireen back into the conversation, because Shireen is just breaking it down for us like no one can about this situation, about really what we can expect. Now, there are a number of Black Twitter users, Shireen, that are just saying, I'm done with it. For example, the coveted, the great writer of some of our favorite shows, Shonda Rhimes,
Shonda Rhimes.
Excuse me. I'm thinking of different names. Shonda Rhimes, thank you. Making a point saying, look, she's done with it. She just, here's what the quote was. This is what she tweeted, y'all. She tweeted, she tweeted, not hanging around for whatever Elon has planned. Bye. like Shonda she told us to her 1.9 million followers. She gone. Yeah. Other black folks are dipping out as well. It's like, oh, okay, the party is over.
The party is over.
Let me take me a to-go plate and wrap it up, and I'm out, y'all. I'm out. Now, here's another Twitter user. This is Dr. Jackie Lewis. She put it out there. The power Black folks built on this app isn't something to throw away, and a crucial part of why, quote, certain people want to destroy it. Keep talking, keep organizing, keep building power.
Yes, I totally agree with that. In 2016, when we were tracking some of the early election voting stuff and people getting out to vote and telling Black women that Black women lead, Black women vote, in 2016, I would say around 2 weeks before the election, which is what we're in the middle of, actually, before this midterms, that a lot of Black women were targeted and they were silenced and they had their actual accounts hacked. The problem that we have to worry about is him having access. I call it the goddess panel, but that means in ownership, he has access to the God panel. That means he has access to every part of your DMs, your personal information. And that's worrisome, to have someone who is willing to perpetuate false narratives and basically try to silence people who call out him in any moment, who have something to say against him. If you think about some of the narratives and the ways in which even some people have been suspended and banned, one of those ways was because they were criticizing him.
Right. But you're talking about Elon Musk, that if somebody were to go on Twitter and start to criticize him, that they might find themselves in a how would they call it, a sacred space?
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Like that's the key part that people are missing, because he is basically saying, I can say and do whatever I want on this platform, but not everybody else can. The free speech part and the absolutist part is very much limited to the people who feel like they have the right to do it, but they do not want to hear the pushback coming from individuals that want to challenge them. And that when you see the opposite, when you see that he responds very differently to people who challenge him, you know that he's not going to look at this platform in the same way. And the people who are silenced the most are the most marginalized. And I do want to make sure that it's clear. There's a lot of free speech absolutists.
Yeah.
But they don't protect us. Everyone keeps saying that, like, if we don't allow the level of free speech, then we're basically going to harm the most marginalized people. Right now, we have not used that constitutional right to protect us. Like, we aren't being protected right now.
Wow.
The future, we're not even talking about the future. You can't do it right now. If there's an increase in the N word being used, then who's protecting Black people? If that's fine and that can go unchecked and be considered free speech.
Right. And so and that's the part that I think that we need to just drive home is the simple fact that if you got this increase of racist language, transphobic language, homophobic language, just all types of just offensive language, and yet we're talking about free speech, it's like, how does that happen?
How does that work?
Because and I read, Shireen, that Elon created this council. I think it's called like a moderation council, where he's supposed to it's basically a group of people who's supposed to dictate, what the policies will be, like what is truly like acceptable, who goes to the edge, who doesn't go to the edge, all of that type of stuff. Plus, he also said it himself that he's not made a decision about Donald Trump, like a person like Donald Trump coming back. He said, if I had, and I saw this tweet earlier today, but he mentioned the point that he said, if I had a nickel for every time that someone asked me if I'm going to bring Donald Trump back, he said Twitter would be minting money. So he was pretty much just saying like, no, we haven't made a decision. But I think it's a very interesting space, because it seems like even though free speech is this very, very highly coveted, a principle, an idea, it's still like up to interpretation, right?
It is.
And so what somebody's hate speech, what may be deemed hate speech to us, could be their free speech to them.
Exactly. And that's what they're doing. They're muddying the waters between who gets to define or who gets to determine what hate speech is. And usually in those instances, the most marginalized people are the ones that are sort of punished under that quote unquote deciding. Right. So we have to hear the hate speech. We have to witness the hate speech. We have to bear the hate speech as people are debating whether our existence is of value enough to not allow someone to use it against us.
All
it
right.
is very
That's
fascinating
very true.
To me.
Very true. Very true. You don't like my music. You say we can all say insane, psychotic things, but we choose not to because we are real people.
We have to still make choices, right? Some things that is happening in our sphere. It's like, yes, this is a choice that someone decides to make this statement, but the consequence of the statement is what I think people are missing. I think that a lot of times people confuse cancel culture in the same way, because what cancel culture is really about is trying to hold people accountable for doing harmful things. It is like it gets twisted, right? It's not about your ability to speak. It's about the fact that you are, in the words that you're using, harming a group of people. And those people are pushing back and saying, no, we're not accepting that. And here's the thing. Social media in original form was actually created so that the small voices was able to amplify in a way that others had, right? Against the media, against the government. I think that there are conversations we can have about that. What has happened is that it's been turned on its head. We were never predicting that the harmful people would use it to continue to be harmful.
And
give it a platform to do so.
Yeah.
Unchecked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like
here's the thing, Shireen. Here's the thing, right? Because this is the other part about it. And I know that you're doing your work around, voter suppression in digital spaces, the work that you're doing with disinfo detox. The thing I always think about is when we have these conversations, how is it going to affect Black voices, right?
Yeah.
So, you might have Black voices, and they could be any one of our great scholars. Hell, we've had we got Dr. Carr on this network. We got Dr. Gerald Horn on this network. We have a number of Black thought leaders and scholars, like real scholars. And if they were to post something on Twitter with what they say rooted in history be deemed as quote unquote hate speech?
That's the thing that we're now moving closer to. If you think about that, think about having detailed conversations about slavery, having detailed conversations about, overturning Roe, like having detailed conversations that, Black women were the like originators of being forced to give birth. The details of us just telling our version of the story. We're seeing this with conversations about CRT and education. Right now, there's like a debate about affirmative action and our ability to be educated in certain institutions.
Right.
These are the debates that we're having real time. And
Yeah.
if we push back and we're the ones saying, hey, this is harmful to us, this is going to cause, dehumanization. That is the thing that we are pushing back. They are pushing back against us. No
Right.
matter how you hear it, it's other people get to decide who we are as Black people. Other people get to decide how we exist in this country as Black people. Other people get to decide whether or not we get to be loud or angry about what's happening to us. That is on its face a complete shift. The free speech part, I think people are missing, is that most of the free speech that people are defending are based on stereotypes about us, and we're not hearing that yet.
That's true. Yeah.
Most of
Yeah.
that is about us.
Yeah.
The woke, the term woke, we are like trying to have conversations that came from us. That's
Right.
that's Black vernacular. We were talking about wake up, see what's happening, da da da. Now there's literally anti-woke bills. Those are called anti-Black bills, y'all. Please pay attention. Go back and listen and watch, because that's what they're saying. They're saying a hard N-word in different ways, and now they're giving permission to just say the N-word.
Right. Oh man. What's your take on this, Shireen? Because I'm seeing a lot of people have this conversation about Nubia fan base, joining these other apps, right? And as I was doing some research just for this conversation, the couple of Twitter users were like, even though Elon might be taking the reins of leadership of Twitter, I'm not leaving Twitter. But what about those quote unquote Black alternatives, right? What about those spaces? How does that, where do they fit in our yearning to communicate, but at the same time being in a space where we can get our voices heard and our thoughts considered?
I think that we will always have this battle to some extent, right? Because many of the models that are monetized is usually not led by us. Right. It's sort of like tangentially we go off and do these other like fan base and others. I think that we will, where we are right now is that we're in a very complicated space about what's next. I do think eventually Twitter is going to disappear. I mean, just remind people, if you've been around for this whole time, MySpace existed, right? When MySpace turned into more of an art environment, then all of a sudden MySpace was gone, and then we were having a Facebook conversation, right? I want to remind people that we've gone through these iterations of different platforms. Some platforms have stayed, some platforms have gone. I do think that no matter what happens, we can't allow our voices to be silenced. So if you decide to stay on Twitter, make sure that you're still able to be as loud as the next person and report the bad stuff. Because I think some of this is also based on the fact that we don't report the things that happen. I don't even think average people report what happens to Black people over what happens to maybe white people, honestly. I mean that sincerely. And I think that we've accepted a norm of that language. And until we can figure out how to move the needle, we are being loud because we are trying to protect ourselves. We're being loud not because we're trying to incite violence against another group. We're being loud for a very, very different reason. And we're just basically saying, see what's happening to us, please, before it happens to you. And so many groups of people are like, oh no, we just We just realized it's happening to us now. So now we want to fix it. But if you were paying attention to all the dis and misinformation campaigns that were targeting Black women, if you were listening to the Black women who were talking about your slip of showing and accounts pretending to be Black women, if you saw all the campaigns that we were trying to stop, that's where it should have sat. When I hear people go like, oh no, like we should go somewhere else now, I think if we had actually all stood up back then, we wouldn't be here where it's now just like normal to say the N-word on these apps.
Right.
Unchecked.
Right. Right. So do we put more investment into these other alternatives?
I would say yes, but my caution is, didn't we just see all the white supremacists move into places like Parler and Gab and Reddit, right? Like eventually they want to come back out. That's what Elon is doing. He's kind of trying to change Twitter back into sort of that environment. And we need to be careful of making sure that we don't allow silos in these environments. I think that we should go to fan base. I think that we should invest in those that are being created at social media platforms that are being created by Black people. But we also can't operate in a silo there either. It's basically, if you think about what I'm saying, is basically social media segregation.
You dropping some new terminology.
I'm just saying, like we have to think about that, because if we go to our own silos, aren't we still allowing the white supremacists to take over and people who are harmful and violent to have their own space without us checking or saying like, this is wrong, this should not be moved?
Okay.
Like, that's what we're doing in some ways. And I'm not saying that we don't support those environments. I'm saying we have to be very careful of segregating ourselves in such a way that we can't even witness the people who want to harm us, who think our existence should not happen, like that we don't belong in these spaces. And that is a technological framework overall. Right. Think about the numbers of people in tech. The small numbers of Black and brown people in tech, we're still at like 3%. How do we change that whole spectrum if we're not a part of the full narrative from the tech space to the social media space? And I think sometimes people don't realize that we're being pushed out. But if we move away and segregate ourselves, that will allow them to continue to build harmful products against us.
Shireen, let me just tell you something. Can you be my therapist for like 30 seconds?
Yes.
No matter where Black people go, we're always reminded we Black.
Yes. It's not
like we can't even go on a damn social media platform without, hey, don't forget, you Black and conscious.
Exactly.
And if you come to bring that consciousness here, you will pay a price.
Because we need you to shrink. We can't afford to have people think that you're loud. You know how many people on platforms basically say that Black people are like only 7 to whatever percent or whatever. I can't even remember some of the numbers I've heard people say of the voting bloc. So why y'all working so hard to keep us from voting then? If it don't.
So that brings and let me just share with you a few things. Let me share with you a few things, because a couple of people are checking in, because the whole social media segregation touched the nerve for a lot of people, I think.
Uh-oh. I can't see all of them, so you got to tell me what they are.
Shereen, like, Faraji, this will be the first and the last time I'm on your show.
No. I will always come back.
No,
I thank you for even having me.
Is love. No, because I didn't think about it like that, but I feel like that mindset is akin to every Black space that Black folks have to be in, right? Like, yes. we can say, yes, we can build, we can create our own church, or we can flood the white church and make them see us. You know what I mean? Or we got to do both. It's like
or have to do both.
We got to do both.
Because when we did that, right? Tulsa happened. When we did that, we got how many Lake Lanier?
There were over 100 Black towns in America that were Black self-sustaining towns. If y'all look at that, it wasn't beyond Tulsa and Rosewood. There were a lot.
There were a lot. And they were destroyed.
And they were destroyed. Systematically
destroyed.
Right,
While
so,
sundown towns still existed.
Right.
While they were telling us we couldn't go to buy food before noon on Saturday, right?
Right.
It's like we can't allow that part of it. Like, we need to acknowledge that we're dealing with a digital version of that behavior, telling us where and when we can exist and where and when we feel or don't feel protected. That's not a mistake at all. That is all intentional. And there's this complete assumption that the only people who can build tech are basically people who don't look like us. We can build it. We just have to be careful about not segregating ourselves. We can still build it. We have the skill sets to do all of that.
We just gotta operate from two spaces.
Yes.
We gotta, and this is, and you know what? I agree. We gotta operate from two spaces. We gotta flood that the mainstream traditional, but we gotta create and build the alternative.
We can have both and
we can do it both ways. We can do it. We can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Exactly.
We can walk. Hey, look, this is what my sister Corinna checked in and said. Social media segregation. Well, damn, sis. You are so right. She said, you have a point, but at the same time, I'm tired of making these races money. She put the $4 signs. Corinna, I think you summed up my view. I get it. I get it. So can we truly operate where, because if we stay on Twitter, we're making the money.
So you're only going to make the money if that, when they said that, like, you want your blue check, you got to spend $20 a month. You don't need that blue check. Why pay $20 a month?
Because I am somebody, Shireen. I am somebody. And I want you to see that blue check to be like, I'm somebody.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Jesse Jackson told me that, and I believe it. So,
but it's the same problem, right? Because then you're actually paying for your subjugation, and we got to be really careful about paying for our own subjugation. That's like, seriously, I do not. I've been on Twitter since I think 2007, 2008. I don't have a blue check. I personally was very clear I would never do that. And that's because I knew that eventually it could be used against us, because even in the blue check of you paying, there's data that's being shared. Your finances are being shared. Like, think about what I'm saying. You're absolutely right. But then you also have to choose whether or not you're going to pay that $20. It was what, $4.99, I think, for the blue check for a minute.
Right.
And now they're talking about $20, right? So don't pay for your own subjugation. It's all I'm saying, sis. That's all I'm saying.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest. Y'all gonna get mad at me, but I'm telling you, I did not know you had to pay $20.
That's where we are now. It's like
they know you had to pay $20. So all I need to look famous is $20 a month.
To look famous, not to be famous, but to look famous. So those are kind of the caution things I say. And here's something else I want to make sure that we're not losing in this conversation. We've built shit before. Some of these apps out here had the Black coders were actually around. They have NDAs and they can't tell you they are some of the originals of some of these things that everyone's making money off of. That aside, you still need to be careful about you being subjugated. But also, I just want y'all to know, I mean this sincerely, some of these technologies have been stolen and co-opted and culturally appropriated. Like Black Twitter is a thing, because when people were coming onto Twitter, people thought there was like a whole different Twitter. No, it was Black Twitter. We are the ones that made.
I'm gonna be honest with you again. I'm going to be honest with you. when I heard the term Black Twitter years ago, I was just like, well, where is Black Twitter? Because I want to log in, right?
Yes.
I felt dumb. I was like, so there isn't like a separate space for Black people?
It's not. It's the same space. It's an open space, but we know, and you can tell who has people who they follow that are Black, because they have a completely different conversation and a completely different linguistics.
I don't like that.
You don't like that?
No, because you know why? Because it's like y'all have y'all little like it's like the children's table at Thanksgiving.
No, it's not. You think that's what it is? I don't think that's
look, man. Black folks, we are so integral part of this conversation about the American experiment of this country, right? On every single level. We do not need to, I'm saying in this space, in this setting of Twitter, we need to be a part of every damn conversation that's in Twitter. That's just me. But, I get it. Like, Black folks culturally, there are some things.
But we still have our own vernacular and our own linguistics.
I get that. And see, that's what I'm saying. There's the other, that's my pain, Shireen. That's my pain, right? It breaks my heart because it's like, I want us to be in those spaces so we can, and I'm going to go, this is my brother Conscious Thought. He said it best. He said, we have to be where we can to educate and enlighten each other in spaces where we are free to be the very best that we can be.
Yes.
I love that, Conscious Thought. I love it, bro. I love that, right? And I feel like even in spaces where we're not deemed as being like we should be there, like the conversation about Black folks today is being at the table. The conversation about Black folks today is that we are a part of every conversation because we built this country.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, don't put me at the children's table during Thanksgiving. I'm sitting with the adults because I'm going to have the real conversation. We're going to enlighten. We're going to educate. That's how I feel. But I understand we do need a separate space. But then I look at it like, is there Asian Twitter?
Technically, yes.
And a Latino Twitter?
Yes.
See, that's why I brought you on, because
you gotta know that they exist though to follow them.
That's what I'm saying. I know.
Like all the crazy stuff that was happening in Brazil. Oh, there's a whole conversation happening. And so that's the point. Like if you, whatever community that you're in, absolutely, you'll see those breakdowns. And there's completely like, let me tell you something. Do you know how many, a reporter did a story on BTS and talked about Black women who love BTS. Do you know how many people got upset about that story? Because Black women loving BTS, i.e. a Korean, band.
Pop. Yeah,
exactly. They were like, how you breaking that down to the Black version of the story? Because everybody loves BTS. No, we all don't. Not in the same way. They're like the quote unquote BTS army looks very different. And some of the army is very racist. So there is a conversation that you can still have within that context.
So I see people are saying this, and Renaissance Man 2008, you bring up a great point. You said, bruh, you said, bro, we don't have to be like everyone else. Let's just do us. And I'm all for that. I'm all for that, Renaissance Man. I'm really am for that. But I am also of the thinking, and I don't know, help me to reconcile this, bro. But yeah. I'm also thinking that, you know what, like, I don't want, everything is, this country is built on Black culture, Black history, Black thought, Black politics, Black healthcare. I mean, we are so if we're essential in all these spaces, the us is everybody.
Because
in some sense,
because most people have appropriated our culture and adapted it for themselves. Like you gotta still be honest about that. Listen. I can hear like my social media segregation thing got people upset because I'm hearing the words, right? but it's true. It's very, very true. I'm not saying that we don't have to be constantly burdened and being harmed. If you want to exit, go ahead and exit. But let's be also honest that we've done that in this country before, and we've seen the outcomes of that. I'm always fascinated with people constantly saying, well, we just need to exit. And that exit does not mean that we're still safe. Because the point of what I'm trying to say is it's not like other people can't still come in and bomb that. Right? That's what I'm trying to say. I've had multiple conversations with people, and I've asked people sometimes, when was the last time America bombed Black people? Do you know the year?
1985. Move.
See? But that's modern, right?
Yeah, so, that was only what? That was only like 40 years ago.
It's modern. The 1980s is considered modern. You can't say that this was 1921.
No.
That's what I'm saying. We are still operating in a country that operates like all the technology has to be in one place. All the people have to be in one place. It is segregation. And there is some level of like self-segregation. And we have to be very, very careful because there is an assumption that that we have some level of sovereignty. We don't. We still have to live by the laws of this country. There's no sovereignty in any of that. And that's what I mean. Even in the technology, if we build it, we still are operating from American laws. And I know that there's like a lot of debates about to happen on the Hill about the technology laws and things like that and whatever. But I'm still trying to make sure that we understand that one thing that doesn't change for us is that the laws being put in place about us, even though they affect other people, we're missing the fact that they're about us. Tip wages is about us. Think about what I'm saying, right? Like if you literally think about the laws that are now being put in place, even over voter suppression, and when I talked about the anti-woke laws, they called it something else, but it's still about us.
Yeah,
you know that there are towns that still are sundown towns. Y'all know that whether they switch around how they talk about the laws, it's about us. There's still, like in Virginia, there's still places where there are writers written in the doctrine of a contract that says you cannot sell this house to a Black person. It's still there, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
So all I'm saying is, be clear that like we still have to then live by those laws, because someone will say, well, that law is in place, so it's not about. Do you know how many people who are mad about slavery being overturned is that they'll say that they became slave to the federal government? That our slavery is not the real slavery, and they will repeat that. Honestly, think about it. Because who was protecting us from the state's rights individuals who thought they could do whatever they wanted to us?
I mean, I get that, but
I'm just saying it's not.
Like in certain conversations, it's like, bro, it's not necessary for me. In my opinion, it's not necessary for us to have. I hear what you're saying, and I know some people. You know what I mean? You just be like, well, bro, that was like. You know what I mean? Like we had a different place in our history,
but we're not. Because some people are trying to roll back those laws back to that time.
I get that. I totally understand that. I totally understand that.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we'll still be beholden to those laws. Like we can still try to be segregated. We can still try to do all these other things, but we're not sovereign. We still will be beholden to those laws. So if cops decide to show up and they're like, we're going to take that from you.
Right.
What's going to happen?
Right. Absolutely. That's a great point. Shireen, we got a couple of moments left.
I know. I'm sorry. We went the whole.
It's all good. No, because that's the way let me tell you, the culture, stuff happens. when the spirit is flowing, I don't like to stop.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? Big shout out to my online culture crew. That's their problem. Let's blame them. Let me stop.
Because we're having a great conversation. I know we got to end.
Like, this is important. I think this is important to a lot of people, right? You know, and I appreciate my online culture crew for just saying, look, let's have these different conversations. You know what I mean? But let's look at this in light of we're a week away.
Yes.
From the midterm. You got your campaign talking about stopping digital voter suppression and oppression. And so we got a lot of people, a lot of our Black folks, you know what I mean? We are up against crazy odds.
Yes.
Getting folks out to the polls. Tomorrow, I'm going to be kicking off like a week of talking about, you know, the importance of going to the polls and having these discussions, but in the digital space, where propaganda has been used on these digital platforms, Black folks I think some Black folks are just losing it because they're consuming so much misinformation.
Yes.
About the issues, the candidates, and all of that. How do we navigate through all of that, Shireen? You know what I'm saying? Over these next 7 days, this is a crunch time for this election and for Black folks to get involved. How do we navigate through all the misinformation?
I try to work on that every single day, and it's really tough. I just want to say that really quickly. It's not easy. We're going through phases of, like I told you, the stereotypes. If it fits your stereotype, then you will believe it. If it's a knee-jerk emotional reaction, you'll just believe it. And we still have to do a lot more work on our own to do our own research, and not these, you know, like what we just saw. Even Elon Musk participated in sharing a false narrative from a fake outlet. There are outlets out there pretending to be Black people, and we have to remind ourselves that that's possible. And we can't do this without each other and understanding that we may all have different perspectives because we're not a monolith. But the one thing I keep trying to tell my people, if they working this hard to come get you and keep you from voting, you got masked men out here with guns trying to keep you from dropping off at a drop box to vote.
Right.
They're like, if like what we're listening to in the next couple of days about gerrymandering, Alabama is 27% Black, but they're telling us that we have to be represented as 14%. Why are they going to SCOTUS to make sure they don't have to fix Alabama for us to have the proper representation?
Yeah.
Sovereignty doesn't give us any of that. So I'm asking for us to pay close attention to anything that makes it look like we don't have the power to vote or change an election, because we've proven that that's false.
Absolutely.
Historically.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited about the midterms, and which is why I wanted to use this platform to encourage people to go out and to do what you need to do to vote, learn about the system, learn as much as you can about the candidates, make sure that they align with your values and your beliefs and your interests, and making sure that we are putting out good information to people online. Because a lot of us be, you know, restream it, resharing and retweeting and a lot of stuff. It just be like, man, this is old stuff, man. This is either old or it's not right. It's not historically accurate. I mean, you know, there's just a lot out there. And I'm looking at states like Georgia, where you got, you know, we got our sister Stacey Abrams, you got Herschel Walker out there, Raphael Warnock and Val Demings. Well, I'm looking at my home state of Maryland, Wes Moore's running. I'm looking at California, Gavin Newsom. I'm looking at Florida, Ron DeSantis and his crazy ass.
Don't forget Michigan and Gilchrist. Like we got,
right.
We got.
What about our brother Mandela Barnes?
Yes, we got people out here running.
Yeah. And I want people to rely on good information.
Yes.
Good information. So any quick tips that you can offer as we kind of go into this space We see this change of leadership, and most important, we see in social media being very, very powerful. That's some things that you want us to consider as we move forward, Shireen.
I honestly have like 3 key things I try to tell people. If you see something that you feel the need to immediately retweet and reshare, pause. Don't do it. Like that visceral reaction is what they're after, and that's on purpose. That's not a mistake. The second thing is, if you see disinformation, you can do something about it. I talk about truth sandwiches. Like, tell the truth at the top. Make sure you respond to the mis and disinformation, which is based on the kernel of truth, but follow it back up with truth. And then the third thing, out of all of this, I try to repeat over and over again, any information that basically makes it look like you don't know how to vote if you decide to go vote, go back to your state website and do your own research to make sure how you can and cannot vote. I still think it's amazing that we can have laws in place that keep people from getting water or even talking to each other in line. But we can't say anything about the guy who's gun toting watching the Dropbox. Right. That's what I'm saying. Please, like, those should be alarm bells, and you should pause and actually think about like what your reaction should be.
There it is. I love it. I love it. And Corinna, you said something very powerful, another powerful statement from my sister. She said, social media has killed the intellectual capabilities of folks. I was on a trip with 5 other ladies waiting to catch our flight. And she said her friend was latched onto IG whole time, barely spoke to us. Insanity.
That's what I'm talking about. That's messed up. Like, you can't even be in real time with the people around you. That would probably be my number 4. Like, some of that stuff you need to stop looking at, right? Because people are giving you a mask of what their life is really like, while you're literally sitting in front of people that you're living with and experiencing real time. Yeah. And most of those TikToks, I've been in many places watching people who I know are doing TikToks. And I'm like if anyone saw that, like saw the whole performance before the TikTok, they'd be like, this is not real. Because if you actually watch it while they're doing it, come on, they're making up a narrative. We're in made up narrative spectrum, and we need to fix that. We need to be honest about that.
Woo, that's a whole nother conversation. Sister.
Another conversation for
that's
another day.
That's a whole nother conversation. It's Halloween though, so it's the spirit of this is the season to pretend.
Exactly.
Take off your mask, folks.
Take your masks off. Like, some of this stuff is real. Like, let's have the real conversation. Some of this stuff is completely made up and complete false narratives. And we're having a hard time discerning between those two things. That's why we're having a hard time.
There it is. Shireen, I appreciate you so much, sis, for jumping on. How can people find more information about the work you're doing online?
Yeah, so you can always follow me, Digital Assistant, on just about everything. Follow our website, Stop Online VAWA. stoponlinevaw.com. You can find all of our reports, all the things that we're actually participating in, our infographics that we have been sharing about the HBCUs, about the Roe overturn, about all the things I think are important to our community. I make sure that what I want people to realize, what we try to do is make sure that we're highlighting what happens to us in conjunction with the data and the facts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shireen, thank you so much for joining us today. Always appreciate you and your great insight and expertise. Y'all can also check out Shireen on RMU Roland Martin Unfiltered, and she also is always providing some great stuff. Look at this, folks. Stop Online Violence Against Women. You can check out her website right there. Beautiful site. And they're talking about everything from disinformation, of the disinfo detox, to digital voter suppression and stopping that effort. Man, oh man, a lot is happening with our sister. And I'm so grateful she's able to spend some time with us. I hope Brother Roland knows I'm going to be calling back calling you back on. So I'm just letting
He
you know.
He knows. I'm like, I'm 100% sure. He's called me every once in a while too. So thank you for just having me on. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Sheree, thank you so much, sis, for the work. And certainly thank you for being so good for the culture.
Thank you. I'm here for the culture. I live for the culture.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Let me just, we got a few moments left in today's show. And big shout out to all my online culture crew. Man, oh man, y'all been bringing it. A couple of things. Here's the quick thing. It is Halloween. So a happy Halloween for those who are looking to go out and do something. Of course, making sure that you do your part to keep everybody safe and all of those things. But I thought this was interesting. I was like, okay, even if you don't celebrate or acknowledge Halloween, but I thought it's interesting. We did a little thing. You saw a lot of black celebrities. These black celebrities taking Halloween to the next level. Keenan, let's pull up some of these pictures for us, bro, of just some of these celebrities. Take a look at this. This is Chloe Bailey playing Storm. Look at Chloe. She going way too much. Let me stop. That's dope how she played that. So that's Chloe Bailey, Black Halloween, folks. When black folks do stuff, we do it real big. That's Chloe Bailey right there. All right, let's see the next one here. If y'all been seeing it, there's been a number of celebrities. That's actually Diddy, folks. That is actually Diddy right there. Playing, you know who, the Joker. That's Diddy right there. Take a look at him. Man, that's pretty damn good. I think Heath Ledger would be proud. All right, Diddy, thank you so much. Let's take a look at what other. This right here is Lori Harvey playing Beyonce. Yeah, Lori Harvey as Beyonce. She did another pic with playing Beyonce for when Beyonce wore that outfit for Me, Myself, and I back in the early 2000s. But that's Lori Harvey. I think Lori Harvey looked more like Kerry Washington in this picture than anything. But that's just me, y'all. That's just me. There we go. That's Lori Harvey playing Beyonce. Take a look. What else we got, Keenan and Ariel? Okay, so this is Monica playing Lisa Left Eye Lopez. Lisa Left Eye. Y'all know, Left Eye, please rest in peace, my beautiful sister. But that was when, this is the picture of Monica playing Lisa Left Eye when Lisa Left Eye Lopez was arrested for burning down her then boyfriend, Andre of the Falcon. So that picture, but look at that. That's crazy. All right, let's go to the next one. This is Haley Bailey playing, of course, from Avatar. They just took it to a whole nother level right there. Took it to a whole new level. Wow. There it is, folks. There it is. That's Haley right there. She's playing, of course, in the upcoming Little Mermaid. So y'all can definitely check her out. But she's saying she got versatility there. They put a lot into these costumes. Take a look at the next one, y'all. This the next one. Y'all know who this is? Lizzo playing Marge Simpson. What? Lizzo? I can't believe that this stuff is happening, yo. Lizzo playing Marge Simpson. Yeah, Brother King Lee, Andre Rison is the house that Left Eye burned down. Right. Thank you, brother. Lizzo playing Marge Simpson here. There it is. We got one more. I think we got maybe one more. Oh, yeah. This is Catwoman. And this is Kelly Rowland. Kelly Rowland playing Catwoman. Which, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could definitely see that. It looks like Kelly Rowland's more for going auditioning for the next movie. Yeah. Yeah, Young C. Lori try to holler at Jay at Rock Nation's brunch. Lori playing with fire. Young C. Look, when Lori did that, right, I didn't think she was going to come back, but she actually was partying with Beyonce and Jay just like a couple of weeks ago or something. So I guess it's all love now. I don't know. But that was definitely a big moment. But yeah, so and this one, I don't know. Oh, this is Janelle Monáe. Now, I do not know who this character is. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I have no idea what this character is, but this is Janelle Monáe. So I never thought, of course, Janelle Monáe is absolutely Janelle Monáe. She will do whatever she feel like doing. Oh, man. Man. All right, there we go. That's Janelle Monáe right there. That's interesting, though. Oh, Kerry Washington, Lionel Richie, y'all. See, they taking it too far, yo. Oh my gosh, man! Look at this. Are y'all seeing this? Woo! Okay. All right. So Janelle Monáe played Fifth Element. Okay. Thank you so much, Shireen. Shireen checking out these costumes as well. Look at that. Now, who is this? Who is this? This is John Boyega playing Eazy-E, of course. John Boyega playing Eazy-E. There we go. There we go. Hey, Keita, can we go back to Kerry Washington? I just got to look at this woman. Look at this. Wow. I think Kerry Washington, I think that's like Roland's homie. Yo, this is what got me dead, son. Anyway, Eazy-E by John Boyega. John Boyega was dope in The Woman King. Big shout out to John Boyega for doing absolutely exceptional work. I seen him in Star Wars, but I loved his character in The Woman King. So big shout out to John Boyega for that. Like, this stuff is like real big, real serious. We got any more, Kaden? Now, who is this? This is, let me see. I don't see. This is Jordan Woods. Jordan Woods. Like, I don't know who the character is, though. Who is this? Who's Jordan? What character is this? This is like something. Diana Ross. It crossed my mind that it was Diana Ross. It crossed my mind. But I could see it. But I'm not. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Diana Ross right there, folks. And then we're going to make this the last one. This is Keke Palmer. Keke is doing, who is this, Ariel? Just let me know. Is that the X-Men? No, she's one of the, what was the character for Keke's right there? Oh, Rogue, that's right. She's in Rogue. Every time I see Keke dress up, I always think she actually auditioned. This ain't just for Halloween. This is who Keke is. She just always auditioning for a show or movie or something. Yeah, boy. There it is right there. All right, so that's a little bit of Black Halloween from this past weekend, folks, where Black celebs go all out. Now this is becoming like a yearly thing where Black celebs always trying to figure out who can do the best, who can do the most, who can go the most outrageous. Jay-Z and Beyonce, they were like Barbie and Ken one year. I mean, you always see these type of things. So I think it's just interesting, for the situation for dressing up. But folks, of course, just be safe and sound out there. All right, final piece as we wrap up today's show. Last Friday, I mentioned that we are doing a new segment today called Tell Me What We're Missing. And this is an opportunity where we're going to bring in our online culture crew members like yourself to join us in the conversations on camera, folks. I'm talking about on air. So you're taking all of the great energy that you've had and putting it on air so we can not just hear your words, but we can also see your beautiful faces. And just ask you to email me to tell me some things about what stories you may see us cover and what stories that you don't see us cover that you would like for us to speak on and possibly speak on with us. So I've asked you Friday. I'm going to be asking throughout the week, but definitely email me if you know of a story that you've seen and you want us to get some words on. You can email me at faraji@blackstarnetwork.com. I'm just asking for the story topic as well as a brief bio of who you are and the work that you're doing. faraji@blackstarnetwork.com. And you can do that. Also, you can hit me up on my personal personal social media. I can be found at The Real Faraji. I know some of you have DM'd me. That's fine. I wanted to email me so that way you can share, have enough space to share. And if you want to add some attachments about who you are, the work you're doing. But I want to bring you on. So many of you have so many great ideas, great insights, great thoughts. And I said, you know what? we here at the Culture, we recognize that we want to be a place to have this community called the Culture Crew, where we can share ideas and discuss things and be a part of the conversation. And guess what? This is a great way, a great opportunity for us to do that. So again, email me at faraji@blackstarnetwork.com. You can email me your topic, a brief bio, and any other information you think may be pertinent for us to bring you on air. We've already received, I'm so happy. We've already received some great feedback. Some of our most vocal online culture crew members have already sent me some stuff. So I'm so excited I can't wait to bring them on, but I want to hear more from you. So hit me up, Faraji@blackstarnetwork.com. You can hit me up on my email, my social media, The Real Faraji. You can also hit me up on Facebook or on Twitter. And let's continue to build this community. I'm actually building my IG and my Twitter. So you're following me, and then I follow you, and we can build this thing up together. We can build this thing up together and let people know what we're doing, and more importantly, how important it is for us to have these conversations. All right. So that's what I wanted to share with you again. I'm going to be pumping this out for the rest of the week, so don't get mad at me, but just know that we're going to continue to try to get you on air to be a part of these conversations. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. I thank my sister Shireen for checking in. I thank my talented and awesome production crew, Joel, Ariel, Keenan, my control room. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered, RMU. And as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. Folks, have a safe time, safe eve. If you're taking your children out, be safe, be aware, come home, and just be in the right spirit, because, it is Halloween night. It's a lot of fun for children, but at the same time, we are living in uncertain times. So I hope and pray that you go out and do what you need to do and return home safely. But God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening, everyone. Peace.